What is the scariest thing created by Mother Nature? Story 1. With my fear of deep water, the Bolton Strid is pretty damn scary for me. It looks like a quaint brook, but it's incredibly deep with strong undercurrents, from cracked. Nobody who has fallen into the Strid, the harmless-looking brook up there, has lived to tell about it. Swimming in the Strid has a 100% mortality rate. It has a 100% fatality rate, means nobody that ever fell in this small brook survived. Worst yet, none of their bodies have ever been found most of the time. Story 2. Prions. Prions are essentially misfolded proteins that can infect your brain or other neural tissue. Normal sterilization procedures, autoclaving, and chemical means for contaminated instruments and surfaces doesn't apply to prions, although bleach is said to be somewhat effective, because their structure is pretty stable. Once you get infected with prions, the result is a debilitating disease that is not treatable and leads to a horrible death. My dad is an RN. He told me a story he heard about someone infected with mad cow disease and that had received brain surgery, and right after the surgery millions of dollars in equipment was considered biohazard and had to be destroyed since there was no way to effectively sterilize it. Story 3. As someone who has experienced it firsthand, I would say tornadoes. People aren't exaggerating when they say it sounds like a freight train. Yeah, F5 tornadoes are probably the most terrifying thing that immediately comes to mind. I remember when I was growing up, there was an F5 tornado in either Oklahoma or North Texas. It had two smaller vortexes inside the funnel and it looked like a pair of legs and a torso moving across the landscape. They called it a dead man walking. That's some unnerving shit. Story 4. The Japanese giant hornet. Seriously, those things are way too aggressive. If you come anywhere near their nest, they will dive bomb the shit out of you. I saw a documentary where they showed 10 of those little bastards taking out a hive of 10,000 honeybees. Those things are miniature kamikaze airplanes. Story 5. A friend had brain surgery and was on a ventilator for a time period. He described to me the semi-conscious state he was in and how what was happening around him, nurses attending to him, conversations, etc., were all woven into an absolute nightmare in his mind. Like a nurse adjusting his blankets or moving him would feel like she was peeling off his skin or rolling him off a cliff. It was terrifying to listen to his description. Story 6. The ocean. The fact we've only explored 10% of it and have no idea what the other 90% is absolutely terrifying to me. We have no clue what kind of creatures/beasts live down there. Just think about being picked up and placed in the middle of the ocean. If you tell me you wouldn't be scared shitless, you're lying. Story 7. As someone who suffers from epilepsy and is a candidate for brain surgery, I found out on Monday whether or not they'll operate. My answer is the human brain. It is the tool we assess all other things. Sure, black holes are baffling to consider. The idea of the megalodon is horrifying, and I know one day I'll be locked in a room with a spider that will duck behind the couch. But the human brain is some next level shit. It is still the single most complex object known in the universe. It named all other things, including itself. I can construct a world within it that is every bit as detailed as the world beyond it, if not more so. There is no empirical way for me to even prove that what I consider to be the world beyond it is not a product of it, and mine malfunctions. My model of the most powerful object in the known universe fucks up regularly, and now I have to submit it to the judgment of a handful of other models of this same object. Yet I can't prove that they aren't a product of my own malfunctioning model. It is ultimately blind faith that carries me through a decision like this. The void that surrounds our infantile understanding of this object is so vast that it makes the magnitude of the universe look like a bird bath. Story 8. Created by Mother Nature? To me, a hurricane. It is a colossal convective heat engine, working off an even more enormous fuel supply, the warmth of the ocean. It grows into a cyclone spanning up to 1.5 thousand miles, nearly the size of half the United States, with sustained winds on its inner 1,000 miles of 190 miles per hour. A Category 5 hurricane could easily swallow an entire country under the storm surge, down it with several feet of torrential rain, and level most buildings with jet force winds, literally an atmospheric buzzsaw, and the eye is probably the finger of God. Story 9. Cancer. It's not just a single awful disease, it's a whole class of diseases that involve your body slowly turning itself off. It's not some strange alien bacteria that invades you and fucks your shit up. It's your own cells rebelling against their programming. It's what happens when your body decides it doesn't want to be you anymore. Things like brain aneurysms are bad, death out of nowhere, and hard to see coming, but at least they're quick. You don't have a slow mental torture of it usually. Cancer can be slow. It can eat you up from the inside out, and it can take its sweet time doing it. Even a treatable cancer immediately leads people to think that their time is up. It's like a pirate getting the black spot. Cancer is what I'm saying. Story 10. Tsunamis. Just think about it. You're on the beach. An idyllic place, usually. Relaxing. The tide seems a bit low, but whatever. More sand and sun to go around means more space to relax without having a beach ball thrown at my face by some stupid kid. Everyone is having a good time, playing volleyball, doing some wakeboarding, collecting starfish, whatever the fuck they want, because it's the beach. And before you know it, all underwater. But it's not just like, poof, underwater. No. First, a wave has to hit the beach. It's like an avalanche, except instead of snow, it's water. And that water is moving fast. It's like being hit by a brick wall that then drowns you. It wipes out the whole beach. And everyone on that beach is pulled into the ocean far away from land. It then continues up past the beach, wiping out all the cars and homes and anyone unlucky enough to be there. That's not all though, because once that wave comes in, it has to go out. Everything the water touches gets sucked back out into the ocean. All of the people, all the property, all the dirt, all the plants and animals and beach balls, everything gets violently sucked out into the ocean. Tsunamis are like the ocean reaching up and suddenly taking a massive bite out of the coastline. It's goddamn everything. Story 11. Little late to the party, pretty much very late, but my best bet is on the velvet ant. These motherfuckers are red and black, furry ants with 2-inch long stingers that rotate, paired with little mandibles that latch on so they can stab the shit out of you. Not to mention they have thick armor protecting them, so they can't be stabbed or squished easily. Oh, and I've seen them grow to be 2 inches long. Florida, man. Story 12. Weather is pretty frightening. Think about how destructive it can be. Let it be cold or hot. If it snows, traveling becomes dangerous. It can get so cold equipment starts failing, pipes freeze and burst, and all other inconveniences. If it's too hot, we're prone to forest fires. If it rains too much, floods and landslides. And this is just the mild stuff. Haven't talked about lightning, strong winds, hurricanes, dust storms. Mother Nature scary. Story 13. Neutron stars. They compress a mass 3 times that of the sun into a ball 15 kilometers across. The gravity on the surface is about 200 billion times stronger than Earth's. It also has a magnetic field so strong that it distorts the shapes of atoms and is lethal from over 1,000 kilometers away. They rotate multiple times per second, sometimes rotating so fast that they create a gamma-ray burst, the most energetic occurrence in the universe. One gamma-ray burst was so bright it outshone very dim stars, except the burst occurred over 3.5 billion light-years away from Earth. If a gamma-ray burst occurred anywhere in or near the Milky Way galaxy and was facing us, it would pretty much vaporize all life on Earth as well as destroy the Earth's atmosphere. Story 14. My visceral reactions over the years tell me 3 things are exceptionally scary: Alaskan grizzly bears, tornadoes, and a schizophrenic in the grip of a very bad episode. I've been around a lot of wild animals, and I have been awed by many of them and careful of all of them. But when you get it all close to a grizzly, a part of your brain that doesn't speak up all that often tells you that is higher on the food chain, and we could be food if we get any closer. I mean, 9 feet tall, huge, fast. It is humbling to be near them. Everything is just all wrong in the sky as the tornado develops. The greenish color, the shape of the clouds, the way the air feels. It's the sky, something you take for granted, a constant background in life, and suddenly it feels malevolent. In the first 2 times I have been around a schizophrenic person having a very severe episode, I was so scared for them. They looked different, smelled different, and were no longer themselves in a way that was just so awful. Way more for them than for me, of course, but I couldn't do anything to help. Story 15. I feel like people saying humans or mankind doesn't understand how truly scary natural phenomena are. We, as humans, have the capacity to end all life for a time on the planet. We don't have enough to destroy the actual planet. The moon was created because something hit Earth. That's the moon. There are a billion other objects just floating around without regard for nothing but a vector that could fuck shit up. You can reason with a human, to an extent. Reason with an asteroid hurling through blackness on its way to Earth at several 100,000 miles per hour, tough shit. We're fucked. Viruses/organisms, black holes, crush depth, space, just space, stars, we got lucky, hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, and fuck volcanoes. You've never heard of a super hurricane or a super tornado or a super earthquake, but you've heard of a super volcano. That is some terrifying shit. How badass of a natural occurrence do you have to be to earn the title super when all other natural disasters don't? Damn nature, you scary. Story 16. What I can vouch for would definitely be floods. I live off the Big Thompson River in Colorado, and the floods we had last year were absolutely devastating. It has still left some homeless. The force of water can carve rock, trees, homes, and everything else in its path and completely destroy them. Very eye-opening. I never thought floods were such a big deal until I seen it for myself. Story 17. Wildfires. We had one by my house a year ago and we got evacuated. We didn't comprehend how close it was to us until I went out with my camera to get some pictures of the results. The destruction was massive on one side of the street and absent on the other. And this is only 3 streets south of me. I did a panorama off one side of the street to the sky on the other, and the difference was terrifying. Story 18. Humans. Hands down, we destroy other animals, our own planet, even ourselves and others. We as humans are willing to kill, not for food, but for the pure fun of it, or because the other has something we want or we don't like them. Humans have the power to do so many things. We are quite close to being able to play God. People who kill others already do in a way. Choosing if a human just like yourself lives or dies, it's extremely morbid. Most animals don't kill their own kind for no reason. Most animals don't go to have a huge massive war multiple times, and it's only the beginning. Story 19. A bolt of lightning. One struck about a mile away from me a couple years ago, and for a few seconds I was like, well, I'm dead. I caught the flash in my peripheral vision, which was green for some reason. When I turned to look at it, there was a massive boom. I honestly thought it was a nuclear bomb or something, so I ran away shouting, what the fuck was that? Story 20. There's a certain fungi which infects ants the second they step on it, taking over their nervous system, turning them into a zombie. The fungus then makes the ant climb up a tree, latch itself onto a tree with its jaws, and eventually falls off the tree dead, infecting the rest of the colony in the process. Ant zombies. Story 21. Enter the Hymenopepimyces argyrophaga, a parasitic wasp that kills spiders. The wasp will sting the spider, paralyzing it just long enough to lay a single egg on the spider's abdomen. The egg will hatch and the larva will gradually suck the blood out of the spider while living on its back for 2 weeks. Then, when the wasp is developed enough to pupate, it releases a chemical into the spider which forces it to weave a cocoon for the wasp, a task which the spider has never done in its life, yet somehow accomplishes with tremendous skill. As a thank you for all the hard work, the wasp larva injects a poison into the spider and sucks out the remaining fluids, keeping the spider alive, and saving the heart and central nervous system for last. I do believe this one wins. Story 22. Outer space. Think about it. Our entire planet, which contains everything we know, every single human achievement, is a minuscule speck among trillions of bigger specks, every one of which could destroy us completely. If we were in the path of a quasar or a black hole or even an asteroid of sufficient size, all of humanity would be gone forever, and there would be no evidence that we were ever even here. That scares me way more than any arachnid or deep-sea creature. Story 23. I mean, anything with venom or toxins that can cause excruciating pain and kills me sounds pretty terrible, but the first one that came to mind was the box jellyfish. Or pretty much anything else that lives in Australia. Apparently everything there will kill me. Story 24. Dracunculiasis, aka the guinea worm. This parasite takes almost a year to mature in the human body. Once mature and fertile, the female worm, sorry guys, the male dies after fertilization, burrows to the skin's surface, causing intense burning, pain, and itching. This is a trick, because the infected will typically submerge their arm or leg into water, thus giving the worm the opportunity to expel its eggs and repeat the cycle. Jimmy Carter and the Carter Center campaign tirelessly tried to eliminate this awful disease. In 2017, there were only 30 cases in humans in only 2 countries, down from 3.5 million in 1986. It's on track to be the second human disease after smallpox to be eradicated. Story 25. Chlorine trifluoride, a chemical that is a better oxider than oxygen, which gives it the weird ability to be able to burn every known material. It will set glass, sand, metal, people, asbestos, and pretty much anything else on fire. It almost explodes when in contact with water and creates its own oxygen during reactions, so it will burn things without the need for air. Story 26. Losing yourself in some way, as in Alzheimer's making you forget memories. You die before you actually die and just live in confusion until it all ends. I get that nihilism is popular now and nothing has meaning, but at that point nothing you've done feels meaningful anymore. Being vegetative must also suck because all you have is your thoughts, but no way to convey them. Story 27. The scariest part is how small the line can be, or possibly how the rest of their personality and life can mask the evil. A person can be the friendliest, kindest, and most family-oriented person you've ever met, and when you get into deep discussions, you'll suddenly discover that they think we should be rounding up people and throwing them into camps for practicing our different religions. Or we should be glassing entire countries and perceived sites. Or you have a wonderful friendly neighbor, and when you have a dispute or misunderstanding and cut down a branch of a tree that was on their yard, they retaliate by murdering your dog. The scary part is that evil isn't like a comic book villain, where it bleeds into every aspect of their personality. It's a poison hidden behind a facade of normalcy, waiting to break out and be exposed when given the opportunity. Story 28. Possibly the fact that every time you exit your house, you trust every one of the people you pass by, every person in the supermarket, every car on the freeway, every stranger on the bus, not to murder you. Every single one. Whenever you read about some serial killer or psycho on Reddit, remember that you see thousands of people all the time, and trust that every single one of them is sane, and peaceful, and harmless. Story 29. The scariest thing is this. It never ends. It's beyond Earth and time and dimensions and even our own comprehension. It's the shit that makes horror movies and the most heinous crimes look like kittens and rainbows. Whatever you believe in or don't believe in, just know it never ends. For this mere blip of time we get to experience life and then back to the billions and trillions of stardust or explosions or black hole glitter or whatever you believe that comes next. Do we keep leveling up? Or do we get to choose ignorance and start all over again, reincarnated? Or live as gods, or if you don't believe in gods, then what? Oh, and you do it alone. No one gets out alive or without an entourage. It just never ends. There's no end. There's no beginning either. That's some scary shit. By the way, you are manually breathing now. Story 30. Rabies. Once you experience your first symptom, you are guaranteed to die. Doctors can't save you, medicine can't help. It's game over for you if you contract it, and all it takes is a little scratch from an animal. Story 31. Global warming, climate change. Think less arable land, crops failing as their growing conditions migrate, societies that depend on those crops being unable to grow them in quantity, more competition for food. Food shortages, consider no wheat, no bread. Civil unrest has brought down governments. Think more frequent, stronger storms, longer droughts, higher average sea level, flooding causing population migration, sanitation failures, and outbreaks of disease as people are squeezed together. Consider Bangladesh, with 163 million population, averages a mere 11 meters above sea level. Civil unrest as undesired others turn up on borders in numbers that cannot be easily held back, and assimilation efforts struggle to cope with the numbers. Then the resource wars can begin if they haven't already by then. Story 32. Underwater caves. They are beautiful to look at, but dangerous as hell. I have heard of divers getting disoriented, not knowing which way is up, and drowning from getting lost. Plus there are the super deep, dark areas, which I can just find terrifying because of the darkness itself and not knowing what's down there. Not my cup of tea.